Okay, folks, happy Monday evening, whatever it is. Got a little bit of time here, so decide to do this with it. If it looks like I picked the wrong night again, well, we'll just stop it short and do something else. So I'm gonna go ahead and take all these brushes that have completely encroached my living space here. Let's move some of this stuff out of the way here. I'll move those even if I end up moving them back. I need to have like a drawer that's just like for dirty dishes. I can just throw these things in there until I can clean them later. All right, I don't think we need any of the decals. We're all set in that department. Let's get these away from a water source. Okay, drill bits, more dirty dishes. And let's take this desk back over. Get all these things that end up like encroaching on every single thing you do, and the next thing you know, you can't move at all. And I got several things here that are basically, well, they're not quite ready to go. They're almost ready to go. We need to dry brush some of the decals over a little bit, so it look like they've been dusty. Probably could. Really, both of these should be in the same one. Let's get a height advantage on it. There we go. See if we can get rid of this. One of these bottles. Where's the super readers at? What's up, the Hoffman? Oh, just getting on here to do a little bit of painting. It's going to give it a half hour to see if somebody showed up. And there you are. I joined a Facebook group that's called something along the lines of airbrushing for beginners. And there are some super beginner questions on there. And there's also people that are supposedly really experienced that are just have the PR of skills of an asshole. And there are just some people that are just, oh, I'm using this paint. I can't get it to work. Throw that shit in the trash. You know, I can't believe. Look, we live in the 21st century. I can't believe there's people out there that actually use enamels. Like I'm not. You know, if I can't use a certain brand that's acrylics, that's fine. But I'm going to find another brand of acrylics. I'm not. I'm not going to pay for thinner. That's just ridiculous. I've lived through that. Like, why would I want to go back and see that? You know, people are going to like 4K TV. Nobody's out there buying it. Let me get a 12-inch black and white TV. Like, what's wrong with you? You know? Hey, use whatever you want, but enamels are extremely unfriendly. Extremely unfriendly. Well, I'm going to need some more TV recommendations from you, man. I know if you had some, you probably already would have told me about them, but my daughter's going to be back in less than a week, and we're going to need stuff to watch, but, you know, I wouldn't want her to watch something that's disturbing or anything like that. Oh, look what I found. The piece that was missing that goes on the Beaufort's gun. All right, you'll just stay right over there. Yeah, everybody's first paints were enamels, right? Those little testers. And you know, as bad as those paints are, and they are bad, there's always paint that's worse. Enter Pactra. Pactra is crappy enamels that you can't even, like, you know, the bottles, of course, those bottles are about that big. And it had like etchings that like went in. If you can imagine like something that looked like an Aztec calendar. If you know what I'm talking about, what an Aztec calendar looks like. It's got like etchings like carved out of stone or something like that. Well, that's what the inside of it was. I don't know if somebody figured out, we can get them less product if we give them this bottle that has has indentations and things like that. You could never get that paint out. So those paints are terrible. But if I use them now, I'd probably be okay because I'd use those brushes. You know, even though they're cheap brushes, you're not using the Testra's brushes that are nylon. You know, they're just absolutely horrible. I haven't been watching much besides the news lately. Why do you want to watch the news, man? They just give you bad ideas. I rarely listen to the news at all. Like, the news has defined me. I'm not into the news. One thing I do need to do, I need to find the little grenade traps. Put that on there. I think I know where they are. But I could be wrong. I think they're here. They're in one of these like containers with like junk shit in it. I mean, it's all, well, most of it's decent stuff. Like there's a Kubelwag in here that is just, it's in bad shape. No, that's not there. Okay. They're one of these bins of. Let me look at my watch. I'm going to give it exactly 3 minutes to look for it. And I'm going to give up and move to something else. Okay, if it's not there, it's not going to be in any of these places. So let's look here. Nope. I didn't keep the box for it, so it wouldn't be there. Not going to be there. This first drawer. Well, what about here? Here's the other. I didn't find it. I didn't stop looking for it because I don't think I'm gonna have to really go out and look for it. But here's a Kupelwagen. I probably should paint that at some point. I think this is the Dunkelgelb one. I have another one that just has the wheels and stuff that fell off of it and stuff. This, I believe, is the Fujimi one. And it's okay. You're into writing and journalism, so election cycles gets you excited. Well, depending on how you want to look at it, this election cycle had a lot to write about or very little. Yeah, we're going to have to. We'll probably use it for Africa, of course. We're going to be in Africa for a while. We're going to be in Africa for a while. I don't know where those little grenade things are. They're photo etch. And I didn't want to glue them because I didn't know if I wanted them open or closed or with a crew or not with a crew or something like that. So I misplaced them. But I've misplaced other things before when I found them. Oh well. So we won't work on that. We won't put on the grenade things on there. Well, I wasn't going to glue them anyways, even if I got them done, because I am my crew members get in here and towards the end of the week, and I want to see what they look like. Maybe putting them in there, and have one with the grenade things that are open, grenade nets. I think that's what they're called. Grenade cages. Okay, so this thing is pretty much done, except for if I need to do any dusting over the decals, which I do. We want to put them on the back of a vehicle, and then there's like no dust on them. And this little wheel needs some dust on it as well. So let's go ahead and start with that, and then just work our way around from there. No, I am definitely not into writing at all. By any stretch of the imagination. You don't do that for a living, right? That's like your side gig, your hobby. Oh, look at this big old goop in there. A boogery goop. I could probably use this. This is just to get it somewhere. Now, you know what? I got ones that have been unviolated. Let's use one of those. I have actually a lot of clean ones. One like this one right here. I do it for a living. I write for a college. Cool. Well, that's good. You seem like a pretty thick-skinned individual, and I would have thought that writers weren't. The problem with yeah, let's use that one. The problem with the writing and stuff like that is that there's almost like this super desire to show both sides, assuming there's only two sides of an issue. And I'm all for that. But you also have to quantify, you also should be able to quantify how it is. Like, for instance, if there's a particular subject matter that 1,000 people agree with on one side and 3 on the other, it's important to bring both points of view. But it also needs to be quantified. By the way, there's hardly anybody that thinks this other way. Instead of you thinking that the situation is split 50-50 no matter what it is. They could be thin-skinned. Yeah, well, the whole thing is Just give everybody equal treatment. Like, go after people, go after everybody. I remember having a conversation with somebody who said, no, 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 this person's different. Oh, the politicians aren't, no, this guy's not lying to me. I said, okay. I said, how about we just hang that guy last? So I miss the news when it was just the news, right? And you could figure it out yourself. Like, I pay my own taxes. I can figure out let's see if I can get away with this. Oh, we gotta go really late. Well, the thing isn't that. It's just that. Let me give you an example. Um, I had my. This is about to happen again. My daughter, my daughter's in college, and she brought a friend. The last time there was a hurricane, they had to evacuate and come here, and my daughter's like, oh, she's really sensitive. Don't say this or don't say this other stuff, or I'm like, all right, I'll be quiet, even though it's my house. I'll be quiet. And I wasn't going to bring anything up, and I didn't bring anything up. And then she brought up something like crazy, and I'm like, if you're going to bring up things that are gonna, that are some people consider like fringe stuff, like then I'm just going to be myself too. It's like you can't have this thing like, oh, I don't want to talk about politics, but then they do want to talk politics. Like all of a sudden, they don't want to talk about politics if you disagree with them. I'm like, well, you either talk about it or you don't, But there's always going to be somebody who disagrees with you. So I'm fine not bringing stuff up, but then you can't bring it up either. I have an interesting book called "Why Leaders Lie." Okay, Is it available on Audible? Because if it's a real book, I'm never going to get to it. But if it's on Audible, oh, now that I know that you're a journalist, I have a book for you. Seriously, this isn't me being my usual sarcastic self. And you may have heard me talk about this book by a journalist, and I was moved. People don't like to disagree anymore. No, the problem is nobody wants to like talk about things. And I think it's important to talk about things even if you don't agree with the other person. You just can't have a conversation with people that are on a crusade. And there's too many people that are on a crusade. Okay, I'm going to look this up. This is called what? Why Leaders Lie. I bet it is. It sounds like Why Leaders. Why Leaders Eat Last. There's a book summary. Why Leaders Lie. Book summary. Podcast episode is 2 hours and 8 minutes. So it's a summary. So read the number 62, book summaries by Wise Words. Greetings, esteemed wide wordians. Holy nerd burglar. Welcome back to yet another captivating installment of Words book summaries. In this episode, we delve into the insightful pages of Why Leaders Lie by the esteemed John J. Mearsheimer, unraveling the profound essence of its central theme. Join us as we embark on a journey. I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to add this to my library. It's 2 hours and 8 minutes, so doesn't look like they have it, but they have How States Think by the same author. Is that good? How States Think. Man, don't be bad mouthing my Florida. You don't like it here, get the fuck out. How States Think. Oh, is he the guy that does? Oh no, he's not the guy that does How States Got Their Shapes. I keep wanting to Is this relatively new? All right, we're going to do more options, and we'll put this on my wish list. Because I always like do like a little snippet. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting, and then you're like, whoa, this narrator is horrible, which is almost never the case. You got to be really bad for me to be like, I'm not listening to that stuff. No, I thought it was going to be like bad mouthing like people from West Virginia again. So there's this guy who is, I guess he's a journalist. He's a journalist, podcaster. I think that's what he does. Amateur historian. You've probably heard of him if you do any history stuff. I can't remember if you're really into history or not. I have a feeling you're not, but that's okay. His name is Dan Carlin. Not to be confused with John Carlin, who's a lot funnier. So Dan Carlin has this podcast or this show that he doesn't post that often on it, and then he'll get on a tear and he'll do a bunch of them, but called Hardcore History. And I think he does a pretty good job. It gets him sometimes a little long to get started, and he does a lot of poetic stuff in there, like artsy talk, right? And but he does a good job. He had one that was called he had a history one, hardcore history, and the other one was called it was a history one, and I think he just gave up on it when everything just went upside down with Trump winning the first time. So he hasn't done it in a while. I didn't really care for that one that much. I didn't necessarily disagree with a lot of the stuff that he had to say, but I just didn't really care about it. But so he had this history. You're really big into history. I have Procopius coming in the mail this week. Whoa, okay, you're pro level. So I got some stuff to recommend for you. But so I was on my way to a convention, I want to say last spring in Orlando. And I didn't want to read one of the other 3 or 4 books that I already had started. I wanted something different. And I noticed that he had a new episode on hardcore history. I'm like, cool. I haven't listened to him in a while. Let me listen to it. And I like talk radio kind of stuff anyways, because you never know what's going to happen next. And it's like, and the subject matter was he had an interview with an author, to which I like groan, like, oh, I don't care about a freaking interview with an author, But anyhow, so he has this author. It was this lady author. And I'm like, I don't know. I just started listening to it. And she's an investigative reporter. I can't remember what her name is. And she wrote this book that's called Nuclear War, a Scenario. And basically what she does... Now, I just take it for granted that she wasn't inventing all of this shit, okay? Yeah, I recommend that. So you did hear where I talked about it. I thought it was fascinating, and it was really disturbing. It really disturbed me, because it's like, not like scared, but just like, melting people and stuff like that. Just yeah, I thought that was really, really good. And what I thought was really cool is she narrates her own book. And sometimes they go into like a lot of science stuff, and I'm not anti-science, but science shit's boring. Science stuff to me is like my wife listening to history stuff. Like, she's not gonna get it. She's not interested in it. Yeah, nuclear war is yeah. Yeah, pretty much anything's preferable to that. Yeah, that was something else. And I listen to stuff that would disturb a lot of people. It's just warfare. I'm not listening to like, horrible things, but I can pretty much handle any kind of warfare you throw at me. But reading about it and stuff. But that was pretty extreme. So I got another book that was recommended to me. It's a three parter. I don't remember the name of the actor, at the actor of the author, but it's a three-part, and the first part is called, and I think it's called An Army at Dawn. I've just been listening to it, and it's basically all from the American viewpoint. Unfortunately, it has other viewpoints in there, but it's primarily from American sources, or American involvement, really, from Torch, Sicily, Italy, and eventually Germany. It's all European. And I'm doing Operation Torch right now. I'm still kind of at the beginning of it. I don't know, 4 or 5 hours into the book or whatever. And I'm hearing stuff that I have never heard before. I have heard stories, just things gone awry that I am sure that the Allies made sure that didn't happen at Normandy. Just like, really like things that, just you don't expect to happen. you know, and it's really interesting because it's almost like I don't know what the heck's going to happen. I mean, I know the Germans are going to get kicked out of Africa, but that's not necessarily one of those areas that I'm super familiar with. But it's been really fascinating, you know. And then there's a couple other books that, I'm not into politics or anything like that, but I thought the Killing Kennedy book was really interesting by O'Reilly. I thought that was really good, and the Reagan book. I thought those two books were really good. The Patton one wasn't as good. I like those that jump around. If you have a good grasp of the subject, the jumping around's okay, because it keeps it interesting. If you don't know anything about the subject, yeah, the jumping around probably is chaotic as hell, but that's stuff that I normally wouldn't read, and I decided to read it. I've pretty much read all history except those couple of books I just mentioned and Jurassic Park, both of them on Audible. What else? Audible just makes it doable because otherwise I'm using the book as a reference. Yeah, this little bit of dusting is plenty. We don't need to go crazier than that. Yeah, nuclear. It's the worst invention ever created. It's even worse than COVID. um, oh, we need to do the same thing with these Nazi bastards. Yeah, it's really disturbing. But I don't like things that are invisible. Radiation shit like that. That shit's invisible. Like, for instance, I say this all the time, and my wife thinks I'm crazy. We have several propane tanks. We're about to have another propane tank now because we bought a grill over the weekend, and well, we need a propane tank for that. I'm scared to death of propane. Not, I'm really uneasy with it. Like, give me fire, give me firearms. Gas is just creepy. It's invisible. And this is the first house I've ever lived in that doesn't have gas for a hot water heater. I haven't used Audible a lot. I'm about to start using it when I go exercise. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, it's super, it's great. The only problem is that sometimes I pick things that are really involved, and if I'm driving around and I get distracted by somebody driving too slow or whatever, something happens, and then I'm like, oh shit, what was I reading about? Because it's it's like every moment is packed with details that I'm trying to picture in my head because it's for a scenario. But I finished a lot of books on Audible. A lot. Like, I don't know, 40 maybe? Oh, that tire is perfect. Ever so lightly. Well, that's why I don't read fiction. I mean, like so many cool things happened in real life. Like, just tell us what happened there, or at least to the best of your ability that we think what happened, because a lot of stuff is just like lost. But I'm trying to reconstruct all the orders of battles and paint schemes and everything for this Operation Crusader, and it's really kind of opened the pores in my brain, and I mean that as a good thing. Like, it helps you think, and like I'm like feel like I'm an investigative reporter, because the answer that I want sometimes isn't there. Well, I shouldn't say. It makes it sound like I want it to be a certain result. No, I don't want it to be a certain result. I just want to get to the bottom of, can I add people as friends on Audible so you can see each other's libraries and wish lists? I don't know. I don't know. I find the interface of it is pretty clunky. For instance, frequently I'll get a notice. Hey, you got 3 days to use a credit or it expires. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to let it expire. So shit, now I'm in a rush to like pick something. So, I've got to go through the things on my wish list and like maybe listen to a little bit of it to see if I like the narrator, right? So sometimes I'm like, how the hell do I find my wish list? Because it's not in a normal place. It's not in the normal, it's not under profile. Like, I have trouble finding where it is. Yeah, I have 12 credits. Yeah, next credit arrives on December 15th. So, I'm gonna be in the same boat again. Listen, history, support. 82 titles. Um, yeah, this is the second one. The Day of Battle, the War in Sicily and Italy, 43 of 44. I mean, I know more than cursory information, so if you start giving me like all these little details, I'll be able to put them and see where they're reference to each other. So I'm really enjoying the book. It's really really good. Rick Atkinson is the name of the. I read the foreword and I was like, damn, this is written differently. This is definitely written differently. I'll have to look up if there's a way to do that. Can you add friends on Audible? Every book that you own in your Audible library, you can share with one friend. It's totally free. You can easily send the Audible book of your choice right from the app. If you're listening to a book that you're loving and think that your mom would love it too, well, that's the wrong example for me. 2 clicks and she can listen to it for free. Can I add users to Audible? You can share owned Audible titles through Amazon Household. That's not the same thing. How do I share my Audible with a friend? Using Amazon's Household Family Library sharing option for using the platform. Send this book feature. I'll have to look on it or whatever. I think it's great. But you got to listen to the book and avoid anything by Charlton Griffin. There's an author and he's prolific. This guy has narrated, I bet, hundreds of books. Like Procopius is probably him, and all this kind of, and he's some guy that lives in Washington State, and he has this really strange voice that sounds like he's RP but somewhere else, and it's just, I can't even do him. And the problem with it is not his voice; it's that he does not break off his sentence structures like a normal human being. It's just really, really, really distracting. So, and if you have him read something that is, say, missing pieces of the document, like who's the guy that does the man? I can't. I stopped doing ancient stuff for 2 years, and I can't think of anybody anymore. The guy that did all the Punic War stuff. That some of his stuff is missing. It's really, really disjointed. Then yeah, he's something else. Maybe he's a nice guy in real life, but I don't really care for his performance. Some things sometimes people don't. What they do doesn't work for you. You know. I got one guy that I got this book on the conquest of Mexico by the conquistadors, and it's this phenomenal book. But the narrator is has never even ordered something off the menu in Taco Bell. Polybius, yeah, Polybius, yeah. If he did Polybius, it's a disaster. But his name is Charlton Griffin. Listen to him, and you may like how he sounds, but it's impossible. I tried to get him with the Josephus book, which is the ancient Israel book, history of Josephus or whatever. Impossible. I couldn't listen to it. It was horrendous how bad that was, and it stinks because I think that's there's a lot of interesting players, a lot of backstabbing and side switching and stuff like that, and I just couldn't follow it. Yeah, Polybius. Charlton Griffin. Maybe somebody out there really likes him, but he just doesn't work for me. Dan Jones, Dan Jones books, right? He does lots of them. The one on the Plantagenets is an incredible book. The guy who narrates it on Audible needs to find another hobby. He's horrendous. He makes me fall asleep. But the one that's narrated by Dan Jones is incredible. That I've read is the War of the Roses. He's a phenomenal author because he really goes above and beyond to try to. Did I say author? I meant narrator. He goes above and beyond to try to pronounce things correctly. You know. You like the Taco Bell one. I mean, he just doesn't have a clue about the Spanish language at all. I mean, it's like there's just some things like how can somebody pronounce that wrong? He does. He does. The pronunciation's a big deal for me. I can speak two languages, kinda, and I don't have vocabulary when I'm uneducated in one of them. Your guess which one it is. Which one you think that might be? But these guys that they star in movies where they're an English actor and they're trying to play somebody from France. Like, dude, give him some coaching so at least he has a little bit of a French accent, speaking in English. Nope, nope. The guy's just talking like he's just from Yorkshire. Like, come on, man, you're an actor. You're supposed to portray somebody else. Like, make an effort, dude. Like, I could do that with some training. But still, the gold standard of all of the stories, of all of the stuff that I listen to on Audible, is still Ghost of Canai. The story and the performance by the narrator are second to none. And I've actually looked at that narrator. I'm like, okay, let's see what else this guy does because he does a good job. Yeah, it's really distracting. The Patton book by Bill O'Reilly. He actually narrates that book. And I thought, okay, well, Bill O'Reilly, he's got his dad or somebody like that was in the Second World War, and he's into that stuff. I mean, not the degree I am, but and he's making like errors that you know somebody's housekeeper would make. Like he called like a 155 mm. Like nobody would look at 155 mm and not go 155 millimeter. No one would do that. You know, unless you have no interest in military history at all. I remember, and I mentioned it yesterday. We had our holiday party for the model meeting, and I had a social studies teacher because that's what they used to call it back in the day. They probably still call it that back in the day. And this would have been, let's see, I was in seventh grade, so I was 12. So this would have been 1983. In 1983, I had this social studies teacher, which social studies was like the only subject that I liked in school. Everything else pretty much sucked. Grade school. College is a little different. I had actually had one college professor in particular that was incredible. But, anyways, he was talking about World War II, and he actually pronounced the name of that sandy beach where the Marines landed in 1943 as Tarawa. I'm like, is that the original Cherokee name, or is that Iroquois? Tarawa. Some people just try to be creative when they're not supposed to be. Yeah, but a good book is when you're captivated by something that's it's of a subject matter you're not even interested in. And that is a pretty unusual occurrence in my book, but we still have this little canvas thing to cover up. Yeah, the Conquistador book is good. I am. I'm doing a little bit of dry brushing, just a little bit of the desert dusting, so to speak, for my children of the crooked coconut. I had to put those Africa Core palms together, and they're from a German company, and you actually have to assemble them together, which is kind of annoying, especially because I these decals are by a German company whose those decals are in my experience been very very thick and difficult to work with. So now you're going to take a thick decal, now you're going to put another decal partially over it so they can line up, because you can't cut them right on the edge because they're actually all one sheet. But if you cut them right on the edge, you can't see because the decal's white and the backing paper's white too. So you know. But how are you doing, man? We're just plugging along here. I got talked into going to North Africa, so here we are. And now we're on an extremely deep dive here. But that's okay, because this is an area that lots of people are interested in. I was always interested in as well, but where is that other wheel that broke off? I'm lucky that, and then I go and pick up this thing. It's made of lead, and I'm like, oh, well, there you go. See, it's so damn heavy. I do all my stunts here. No miniatures were hurt in the process of this. It's so damn heavy. This. Where is that other wheel? I mean, if I find it later, I find it later. I had a tray and the stuff hit the ground before one Saturday. I think it was a Saturday morning or whatever. And I don't know how the hell I didn't say an expletive because I had them stacked very carefully. But, yeah, again, I'm fumbling because I wear fucking I have glasses on. Like Mr. fucking Magoo when I got glasses. The fumbler. Do you ever make terrain? Not sure if you make terrain stuff. Oh, I did. Yeah. You just got to catch me on the right thing. So this is some stuff that I made because I got these 2-pounder anti-tank guns. And I wanted them in some kind of position where they can be already defending. So I made these little rock croppings, and they're painted with the same colors that we did for the dry brushing here, and they fit perfectly like that. And what did I make them out of? Hotel key cards. And instead of using styrofoam that is difficult to work with and you make a mess, I had an old pool noodle. Take the pool noodle and cut it in pieces. I glued it with a hot glue gun. Put the goop on it. The goop, of course, is Vallejo. And then paint it. Done. Put some tufts on there. Finish. And I like making the terrain because I can make it whatever dimensions I want it to be. You know, like I wanted it to be tight around this particular gun. You know, and it looks good when you put it on the desert mat. It really does look good. And I wanted it to match, you know, the ground coverage and everything. So I do. Yes, I do some terrain, but not a whole lot. Not a whole lot yet. Although I did see that on eBay, somebody is selling, who is it? Noble Knight? Noble Knight is selling like a bunch of terrain, like diorama sheets. And a lot of it seems like it's that Airfix stuff. So Airfix, yeah, the pool noodles are great material. The only downside it has is that it is bouncy. Okay? So there's a little bit of concern when I put the goop on it, and I made some foxholes too. Which the only thing I don't like about the foxholes is that I wanted them big enough to put 3 guys in, and they are big enough to put 3 guys in that. However, they're a little too vertical for me. You know, they look like an in-ground pool that's just gone dry. I wish they were sloped more. But the reason they're not sloped more is I was limited by the size of the hotel key card. You know, I'm working in 20s. 20s all the way for this. 15s for my ancients and medievals, but World War II's 20 mil for me. But so I was concerned when I put this that it would be bouncy and it would crack, but it pushes in just a little bit. But then this material also gives, and you can slice this in pieces. You can hot glue it with the low temperature setting. It worked great. I'm like, I didn't want to go. I wanted to start working on something, and I just like, what materials do I have here that aren't being used? So that's why I went with the pool noodle, and it was a win. Sometimes you just gotta like use what you got. Where is that? Okay, we gotta find that. We gotta find that wheel. You insolent wheel. And it's probably right here because it's not like I took them anywhere else. Yeah, but we've been working on desert stuff. And this light doesn't do it justice. It's super bright. You're not gonna really see it. The color really is, but and pin washing and all that stuff and cute little piggy looking things and 25 pounders and. But I got really excited because my friend Marcus sent me over, one of our viewers on me. He sent me some 20 millimeter figures I didn't have, and they were all plastic, soft plastic, and I was concerned of how durable they were. And I've had some of these figures since I was a kid, since like 1981, and never considered that I painted them. And he gave me some other Australians and stuff to supplement them and give them a lot of personality. And I've painted almost 10 of them now. And they're fabulous. They're freaking fabulous figures. It's almost like I don't consider them because they were soft plastic because of the durability issue. But man, the craftsmanship that goes into the guy that's quote unquote sculpted these. Let me see if I can show you a picture of it. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal how good these figures are. And these are just Airfix figures that I've had as a 12-year-old kid since 1982 or something like that. Clean your lens. Wipe mind your own business. Are you happy now? You're wearing a big happy hat? All right. And I'm a terrible picture taker. Unfortunately. Actually, it might be a better picture like this. It is. It's not kicking back as much. Here, take a look at this. These are classic Airfix figures. And I'm getting real close so you can see all the imperfections and they're just incredible figures. I am concerned about the durability. I'm ultra careful with them. I'm ultra careful with them, but so you get the straps and stuff on them. The worst thing about the plastic figures so far is that when they have flash, and they do have flash, you can't just scrape it off. You have to slice it off. You know, in tiny little strips, almost like you're the guy in charge of putting the gold leaf inside of Goldschlager. I mean, like the tiniest little freaking thing. Take your contacts out, go in there and like really. I mean, it's just some insane slow pace. And I said this before. I wish I could had a microscope, so when you scrape it, the soft plastic gets fuzzy, and I want to see what's happening there. What's happening on a not a molecular level, but on a really small like what's going on there? What's causing it to behave that way? But anyhow, so here we are in the desert. Looking for a road wheel on the armored car. Well, you know how you find it. You stop looking for it. But when we started doing this in the early 90s, this was the scale to do. Everything was available in this scale. 28 millimeter was a fantasy D&D Warhammer scale and only. And 15 mil only had one company that had World War II stuff that I was aware of, and just not a whole lot of variety. So if you want to do skirmish stuff, I like that cup holder. I don't know why. I just noticed that. Because I moved it over here. Because I was like trying to use this. Speaking of which, this thing's awesome, and you can get this at Hobby Lobby. It's a brush cleaner. It's like 12. This thing's amazing. I should have gotten this 30 years ago. It's really pretty amazing. So I recommend you getting one of these. But yeah, I got another one. I got another one of these cup holders. So this is the Amazon one. This one is the IKEA, or the other way around. Same thing. They cost like $15 or whatever. And yeah, they just attach to the end of your table, and that way it's harder to spill your water. As a matter of fact, I've never even come close to spilling it since I got this. And you just get it out of the way. Put it over here on the right hand side. Yeah, this is the IKEA one. This is the one from Amazon. So, it's super handy. Super handy. And I'm not one that's like, hey, let me buy a bunch of shit and see if it works. Nah, I'm like, I actually saw that they had this at IKEA. I'm like, oh, cool. Shit, I should have had another one. And then I'm like, well, let me see if they have it on Amazon. I'm like, oh, they're like the same price. Although I think the IKEA one's not made in China. Or maybe. Ooh, I don't like that sound. I think this is made out of like some bamboo or something. Is it made in China? Made in China. I forget what I said. There's a lot of stuff at IKEA not made in China. And I have a lot of IKEA stuff. This is one. The table's one. The other table's one. This thing behind me that the miniatures go inside of. That's IKEA. My other display case was IKEA. Those books recommended you on Audible have a terrible narrator. You might want to skip the book I recommended. Okay. Well, maybe I like his style. It can't be worse than Charlton Griffin. Or the other guy. And that Buddy Levy's Conquistador book. It's a great story. I'm sure there's lots of different versions of it. That one in particular is particularly good. You gotten a chance to read The Ghost of Canai yet? Or listen to The Ghost of Canai? I don't know how many books I've read on Hannibal. Several of them. Including the one that was done by the guy that was in the Civil War. Theodore Aero Dodge or whatever. His big focus was trying to find where through the Alps he came. But there's so much interesting things out there that really happened to be fooling around with fiction. I mean, if you like fiction, that's cool, but you went through a heavy Hannibal phase. All right, so let me ask you this. bring up the old question. Who's a better general, Hannibal or Alexander the Great? If you have an army, who are you going to... and it's of equal strength. Who's going to lead it for you? Alexander the Great or Hannibal? That Civil War guy was a little biased towards Hannibal, but it was one of my first Hannibal books. You think your favorite Hannibal book is by Lazenby? Okay, I haven't read that one. What do you think? What do you think about old Hannibal? I know you know how I already think about it. And the funny thing is, Mitch thinks the same way. That's not paid him to say that. You go Hannibal. Yeah, I mean, Alexander the Great is not, I'm not saying he's a bad leader, but there's lots of people in history that were like him. A motivational guy, a guy who wanted to make something. He didn't want to sit in the sidelines. He led by example, whatever. He couldn't have done it. He couldn't have done any of that stuff without Daddy's Army. And he couldn't have done it without Daddy's veterans. Daddy's veterans were like a big deal, you know? That's one of the reasons why all of Alexander's successors weren't even remotely as successful as he was, because they didn't have those guys anymore. Nobody really liked Alexander the Great. He seemed unstable as a person. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You never know what he's gonna want, you know. So. Well, I don't know. I don't know where that freaking wheel is. It's here somewhere. I am certainly not worried about it. I have an Airfix one I can replace, but it is kind of disturbing. Like, it was right here. I don't think it fell on the ground. We haven't had an accident since then. Yeah. Fuck it. Screw you, Nazi car. All right, so now this is completely done for spraying. So is this one. So is this one for sealing. I'm gonna put a little box, put these little guys in there. Yeah, I mean, Hannibal had to lead all those different people that didn't like each other and get them to fight together, and then went in somebody's backcountry for like 15 years, like. That's some talent. Like, if you worked under me, it would seem a little stable. Yeah, I know. Some punk ass kid he thinks he's a god. Screw him. Yeah, I guess we can seal this one as well. This one's been sealed, the A13, but we still need to put markings on it. The Roach Coach, it's a catchy name. And the other Roach Coach, the bottoms of the 25 pounders that are going to be removable, and the 25 pounders themselves. Boomba! And the Bofors. And these guys aren't ready to go, but I do need to put the little tarps. They got the tarps that are over the wheel, so when you change the tires, you got one wheel that looks completely new, and everybody makes fun of you. I don't know. Watched all the kings and generals on Alexander. Read a few books. I feel it better. I like wars in Greece and Greek states fighting each other. I like Pyrrhus. I think Pyrrhus is more fascinating. I don't know why. I just think that, you know, him and his elephants. Him and his elephants with the little platforms on them. I like Pyrrhus. And no, I'm not saying Pyrrhus was a better general than Alexander. I'm interested in Pyrrhus. But yeah, that one of the most complicated things was Alexander's successors. And I studied enough of it for scenarios that I got really good at remembering who was what. And I watched all the kings and generals. That stuff helped as well. And yeah, interesting stuff. Definitely. Then I really like the period of the. Yep, yeah, it's super interesting. Yeah, at first you're like, man, who's this Perdiccas guy? And then you're like, oh, okay, I thought he was the same as the other. No, he's not the same as the other guy. Okay, let's get a brush like this. I guess we didn't do all the successor battles. We could have done more. Oh well, somebody else have to do it now. I don't do that shit no more. I would do ancient stuff again. I'm just not going to play it with DBA. Like, not doing that anymore. Like, I want something with a little bit less punishing. Less punishing. Is it? Did I get a new green brown English uniform? Green brown. Okay, is the new green brown the same color as the old green brown? It doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like it. Let's deal with this. I would like the successor dynasty style games of successor states. Ding 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 ding. Look out! It's Polypercon! Yeah, the Japanese are weird, man. Like, they should do more of their own history. Like, the Japanese have a really rich samurai history. They don't make any samurai movies about that. And when they do, it's like, well, we'll just base this on King Lear. Fuck King Lear, man. I want to learn about the Far East stuff, not some British crumpet-looking Tudor crapper. You know, I mean, I'm like... Sorry, I didn't plan that one. I didn't know exactly what I was going to call them, whatever. You know, Shakespeare's stories are probably just fine. But write it in English, for God's sakes. So, since you're a journalist, you may already know this, but I found out about a week ago that Viejo, everybody that works there, went on protest. But then I heard mixed stories, like they're only working one shift, or they're only protesting during one shift, or something like that, or I don't know. I got plenty of the paint. Hopefully, they don't stop making it, but I don't want the people to get abused. But you know, I thought it was the whole point of the EU is they could, equal pay and stuff like that. You don't have these impoverished people being treated like they're an impoverished nation. All right, let's see if these are close. Oh yeah, they're close. This looks, and it might be because this bottle's so damn old. This looks really dull, and this looks really bright. I really like Ron. I hated it because it was like I was missing out on a story. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Shakespeare, and mainly because of the language it's written in. Not that anything else. Have I seen Daimajin? I do not. I've never even heard of it. But I mean, shit, they could do a whole warring states thing with the Japanese. It'd be super interesting, man. Have you seen any of the live action Romance of the Three Kingdoms stuff? I know they got one miniseries that's like forever long. Have you seen that one? I can almost picture the guy that plays Cao Cao. And he kind of looks like what I would have. I just hate Meng Huo. That barbarian mother. You have to kill him 7 times. That guy's a pain in the ass. I remember the first time I found out about Romance of the Three Kingdoms. I was, let's see, how it would have been around 1991 or 1992. I had a friend of mine who had a Nintendo, the first one, whatever the hell it's called. NES? I don't know. The very first one. Which I'm not a fan of. I'm not a Nintendo fan. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. It's not violent enough for me. And he had a game that was a Romance of the Three Kingdoms game. And it was, like the strategic game where you would move these little blocks around almost like counters. Like it was almost like a counter game. Hex and counter game. Daimajin is samurai movies with kaiju action. How are they gonna stop something that big, man? A really sharp sword. I'm into the Romance of Three Kingdoms 1990s TV show. Had this huge box collection of it, and it comes with a nice translated booklet for episodes. Okay, how many? How do I know which version I'm watching? We'll find out when it's made. You'll know if it's the '90s version. um, let's see if it's Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Romance of the Three Kingdoms, 1990s show. Let's see what we get. That's the one I was thinking of. That's the one I was thinking of. Not to be confused with Three Kingdoms, which is a Korean one, or to be confused with warring states is another term that gets thrown around. The warring state. I think the warring states of China. And I think of that's the war that was done, that ended up the first emperor of China ended up unifying China, right? The one with the that Chen ended up winning. And no, well, warring states is also the Nobunaga stuff in Japan. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's not what I consider it. 1990s series is close to the books, and extras get pretty cool in the battle. I think they had like 500,000 extras total for that series. And it's made in China, right? It's Chinese. Later, you start getting state propaganda. Oh, no, 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 no. And it deviates from the book. Yeah, we don't want state propaganda crap. No, like, I don't like the modern Chinese, but the modern Chinese government and stuff. But this ancient stuff's awesome, you know. This ancient Chinese stuff is really cool. Really, really cool. A lot of the Asian stuff, for that matter. As a matter of fact, I'd probably have a Chinese army in World War II if there was more than one manufacturer for it. Wow. Fuck the fumble fuck glasses. So we put different glasses. Well, then that is fumble fuckery. God. I'm telling you, put glasses on. I'm like a fucking mole. Yeah, I want to say I started checking it out, but it wasn't available with subtitles. Something happened that kept me from watching it. Government can go take a hike. That's right. That goes for all governments. Oh, wait. Yeah, I don't want to listen to propaganda. I see right through that shit. All right, we need a little bit of white on here. Yeah, the only thing is I learned a lot of the history of that period from playing the video games. So what ends up happening is there might be somebody who is that might be pretty pivotal, but because the video game did not give him a custom look, it's someone that I really didn't pay attention to. So there might be somebody, you know what I'm saying? There might be somebody who's like, it is a major player, but he always is an NPC. You can't play him, and he looks just like one of the other myriad of different generals that you have. So don't really, don't really give him the time of day. Even though he may be an interest. All right, I gotta go grab those glasses that I threw over there. Man, it just like scared me, caught me off guard. Like, what the hell, man? Like, I can't drive with glasses on. It's like driving drunk. Like, I started watching that movie called The 800. I heard good things about it. It's like 800 defenders, 800 Chinese defenders of Shanghai or something like that in 1937. And it started turning into it was so freaking hokey that it was like, there was like this beginning scene where they're like crawling through like a field or something. And all I can remember is they have these conversations like, hey, Tony, what are you going to do after work today? Well, I don't know, Bob. I think we'll, it's like, what the hell thing? And it was dubbed too. And I generally don't like dubbed things because sometimes they'll like put a voice that doesn't go with what the guy looks like. Let's just like, let me hear. I'm going to put subtitles on anyway, anyways. Just let me hear what the guy sounds like. I understand I'm not going to understand a single word he says, but that's okay. I want to hear what this language sounds like, you know? I mean, I'm going to put subtitles on anyways. So, you know, Chinese movies are terrible. It's just propaganda. Modern Chinese movies. Well, Russian movies are the same thing. They're annoying. Well, speaking to Chinese, I ordered my first order ever. I don't know if I'm going to get it, but I ordered my first order ever from AliExpress. We'll see if it was a low risk. It was like $8 or something like that. I'm like, okay, I can throw $8 out the window. We'll see if I end up regretting it. I think this is I think this is too much of a color change between the two. What happened to the black? It just disappeared. What did I get? I got some figures. I got some 1/72nd scale figures. I wanted to like test and see how it would work, and I didn't want to spend something that I could get somewhere else, and I didn't want to like I was going to order some models from Crusader models that are S models that are excellent. X models is freaking excellent, and they're Chinese, and they can make good stuff in China if they want to, just like they can make good stuff here in this country if they want to. Um, I think they're 3D printed. I'm not sure. Hell, they could be pirated for all I know. We just won't buy anymore. Um, or I can make a video. See these things that I bought for almost nothing? They're garbage. They're robbery or whatever. That's what I'll do. I'll just buy a bunch of pirated stuff and just do infomercials. Don't buy this shit no more. I'm sure there's more people buying that stuff than there are watching my silly ass channel. Um, but anyhow, um, you could just save a few bucks buying them directly from there instead of from an eBay vendor. But you know, between PayPal and eBay, you got a pretty good chance of either getting your money back or getting resolved. You know, like you have some, they have to play fair kind of stuff. I don't know how AliExpress is. I really do not know. So, but I was actually surprised how many things weren't a good deal. Ordering them directly. Now, the other place that starts with a T, I wouldn't order from. You know, because there's just no ownership there. But you know, I don't need lederhosen that are only 30 cents or something like that. You know, I bet they sell them. They'll sell anything. If not, they'll just friggin' make them for you. Yeah, it looks pretty good. That tire was here this morning when I blacklined it. Who knows where it turned out? We'll find it. We always find everything, except that 150 caliber that goes on the top of that Sherman. I can't find it. It fell in the other house. Hell, I moved out of the damn place and never encountered it. He just got up and walked away. There's a 50 cal that came on a die-cast Sherman that I have by, I think it's a Matchbox M4A376, and it had a 50. It had a 50 on the pintle mount on the commander's hatch. Couldn't find it. Actually, you know, I should look for the tire inside the underside of this chair. Will history repeat itself? That was amazing. It's here somewhere. That's why I needed to clear this area anyways. There's just too much crap. And I have a much neater work area than a lot of people. I've seen some work areas that make me want to, like, I would quit the hobby. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't work in that kind of environment. I can't function like that. Have you found something on the side of the chair before? Yeah, you were with me, weren't you? Or was it Ben? Might have been Ben. Yeah, I was building a Panzer IV. Is the Eschi Panzer IV? I'm pretty sure it was that one. And it had fallen on me, and I couldn't find it. Got up out of the chair, and it had fallen. I don't have that chair anymore. I had let's see. Let me do a little bit of drawing here. Um, the chair had these armrests. You just had like a standard chair with a cushion, right? And it's like this one. It's articulated. It goes up and down like an office chair. The base of it wasn't round, but you get the idea. And they had these arms that would come in and they would attach underneath, almost like in a channel. And I lost this gun barrel, and the gun barrel and the mantlet. Okay, the gun barrel was about that long. Plus, I had a mantlet on it. Okay, you know, the front of the turret. This is a relatively long barrel. Couldn't find it anywhere. It had fallen inside the channel of this, and it was inside the. It was like underneath the chair. I'm like, that's like a freaking money shot of money shots. I'm like, how do you manage to do that? So, I've seen crazy shit like that. Like you drop it here and like rolls and goes underneath like furniture that you've never been. If you try to do one of those shots, it never happened. Now this chair is incorrigible because this chair, when you put it together, has these little caps that supposedly cover up the screws and the bolts and stuff that hold it together. And for whatever reason, due to my displacement and flexing of this thing, it they like to pop off and just collect down here. There's only two, but usually there's only one. Now there's a second one that always likes to. It's a cheap ass fucking chair that I got for like $30 or something like that. I'm like, well, you can't go wrong with that. And after a while they start complaining and like, but shit happens. Don't look at your desk. Well, yeah, this is about as messy as it gets. Actually, it doesn't look messy at all over here. I just got some paints and I got paints and stuff over here. But I'm gonna have to check out. I'll check out that book anyways, even though you think the narration on it's bad. But I'm gonna go ahead and sign off for now. We've been on here for. I'm pretty tired, but at least I got some stuff done. And I'll pick up with this, with these little things in the morning. Yeah, I like that color right there. Little tart, and hopefully the wheel will turn out. But I just wanted to just dry brush it because what the wheel happened is I had all these things that came in from the airbrush station in, and I guess I put them in the morning like this, and then somehow they fell and all hit the ground, and the only thing that broke was the one wheel off. And the only reason that wheel broke is because this is a Dragon model, and they're built too close to scale, and there's the finest of little axles that holds it together, and it must have hit right on that wheel and broke it. I don't blame it for breaking off, but I'm like, the stuff's just not very durable. All right, folks. Well, thanks for coming by.